Hello, friends. It's Amy Calandrino, and I'm host of the Performance Mindset Podcast, where we focus on commercial real estate and leadership. I am here in usually sunny Orlando, although we are getting that Arctic tundra that's coming down right now. So I have with me today Fly Jamerson, who I first connected with on social media. Then I got to meet in real life at the Commercial Real Estate Conference. And now we are joined at the hip for the foreseeable future, being program co-chairs for the CREi Summit that is going on in September 2025 in beautiful Palm Springs, California. I don't want to steal Fly's thunder. I'll let her talk a little bit about what she does, how she got into commercial real estate, and then we are just going to have a delightful conversation today. Are you ready?
I'm ready. And it's always a delightful conversation. Finally, the people are going to hear what it's like when we talk to each other after all of our phone calls and spaces. So, yeah,
you mean like our 10:30 or 10:30 Eastern Standard Time like calls, and sometimes yeah, where we still talk for like an hour. That's amazing. I felt like we were like soul sisters as soon as, like, spirit animals would be the better word to use for it. Like once we actually connected. So yeah. So you came out of nowhere in commercial real estate. Tell us how you got here and what's going on. You got some exciting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, how do I reverse engineer this? So at the time of this recording, I have just finished up my 8th month in commercial real estate, which is, so it hasn't even been a year. So it's pretty bonkers. And so I came into commercial real estate almost completely by accident. I'm based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm not originally from here. My background is in the arts and entertainment industry. I thought I was going to be a college professor. That's not how that worked out for my career, but I stumbled into commercial real estate because I had started to do a lot of work in marketing and social media. I was a writer and a producer, and I had done what we now call content creation, although back then, 10 years ago, that wasn't really what it was called. And I don't know if it was referred to anything, but the industry obviously has grown so much in the last 10 to 15 years. And so, but telling stories and creating media to get those stories out there was always something that I did. And so I started working for myself, and I stumbled upon a company in Baton Rouge, a brokerage, that I was really, really aligned with in terms of our values. And I was like, I don't really know anything about commercial real estate, but I really like these people, so I'm going to give it a shot. And so what happened was I found like my place that I am meant to be, because at the end of the day, with everything that I do, what I really care about is conversation and connecting with people. Connection is one of my core values. And when I started observing calls that brokers were having with their clients, with their prospects, I noticed that 75% of the conversations they were having with these people had nothing to do with commercial real estate. Mm-hmm. It was about relationship building. It was about nurturing. And it was about finding out what people were really all about and what they really wanted and how you could help them achieve that. And so once I discovered that, I was immediately hooked into that. But then I had to figure out, okay, how do I get this on social media? And so we started doing a lot of work with the brokers and supporting their own social media presence. But for the brokerage I was working with, I sort of became like the spokesperson. And so kind of how I ended up popping out of the internet was I started cold calling brokers who are in the social media hierarchy, like in the sphere, right? To ask them for their advice. And I kind of got there because I was looking for, what are we actually doing in the business that we could emulate to create content without creating a whole lot of work for other people. So I started cold calling people, and about 2 months in, ended up at the CREi Summit, and kind of like Aviva said at some point, Aviva Sunenrich, our dear friend, she said, you popped out of the internet. I think you've said that as well, right? And so, just building relationships and really adding a lot of value by celebrating people, by featuring what people are doing, and just being genuinely really excited in a fun and entertaining way. So that's kind of how I got my start. Now, after that and getting really involved with the CREi Summit, like you said, you and I are just going to totally smash programming for the upcoming 5th year of the summit. And I also at that time was selected to be an ICSC creator in support of ICSC New York. So traveled there and just have continued to build relationships, build connections, and building those connections among all of the opportunities and relationships that it brought me, but by posting pretty much mainly on LinkedIn. I'm pausing because it's still kind of like mind-boggling to me that we're even here having this conversation. And
it really is, like, to think like I didn't know you a year ago, and I feel like we were destined to come together.
Right.
Because I mean, my husband always says, like, what's your favorite quality about me? And he's like, that you genuinely get excited about everything. And a lot of times people see me on social media and how I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about this. And I'm like everybody showed up to the program committee call today. And I'm like, yeah, everybody showed up. And I'm like, I really get like that excited and celebrating. And like, you too, are that way. And I think like if you really have like a passion in just like a zest for life, whether you're doing commercial real estate or whatever you're doing, just life's just going to be a much grander experience for you. So, and I like to be around those kinds of people.
100%. I do as well. And it's funny, I joke sometimes that like, how I got into this industry was because I was in alignment with the people who introduced me to it. And I joke that like they could have been selling toasters and I still would have like signed on with them because it was always about the people for me and not necessarily the product. But the product of commercial real estate, like the first time I remember the first time I heard somebody refer to buildings as inventory, like the office inventory. And I was like, wow, y'all are on a totally different level. And so now I drive around, I go places, I visit places, and I'm like, who owns that building? Who owns that building? What's the deal there? What's the deal there? Right? Like you can't unsee it. So, but a part of my success has been, that I am hungry to learn. And I'm interested in people, and people love talking about themselves and their work, right? And so in an industry that has not typically had strong, I don't like to speak negatively, but in an industry that typically has not had entertaining, engaging social media content.
If you do it, you do it, but it's the freaking 17 dudes and the one girl, like all of a sudden in front of this industrial building that they did this lease deal.
Right.
What is super cool about that? Like, help me to understand, like, what was the story? What challenge did you overcome? To me, and we talked about this, you talked a lot about storytelling to begin with, and you came from the arts and entertainment background and all those kinds of things. I think whether you're in commercial real estate or whatever you're in, I think it lends itself to have that story and its connectivity, with those people that would appreciate it. Now, not everybody's going to appreciate it. I had a podcast not too long ago where the guy said, Bob, that 1/3 of people are going to like you, 1/3 of people are not going to like you, and 1/3 of people are kind of agnostic and they really don't care either way. But if you're like a storyteller, you got a zest for life, and you got this passion, you're going to want to like be around kind of like-minded people. I think you will be like an energy source for each other. Not that you can't interact with other people, but it's just more fun.
Exactly. And a lot of this industry is challenging, especially in recent years. The challenges have been quite harrowing. And so, something that I talk about a lot, whether that's in my relationships or in the work that I produce, is that like people really value laughter. People really value positivity and like having those kinds of connections, whether that's in the content that you're putting out or in the way that you work on your relationships, right? And so because of my ability to bring my knowledge of that and my personality and like the things that I value to this industry, it's skyrocketed me with a speed and volume that I was not expecting. And I leveraged that into a head of marketing position at 1031 Specialists, which is super, super exciting for both the company and myself. So it's if you have not started posting on social media, I 100% got the biggest job I've ever had because I started posting on LinkedIn. Pretty wild stuff. Not nary a few months ago.
I'm super excited for you. I was thinking as we were chatting, I think we should tell the story. You know what story I'm talking about, right?
Oh.
I'm kind of embarrassed because you knew that we would connect and you cold called me and you caught me off guard. And do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and we didn't. So when we met in person at the CREi Summit, and I recounted this memory to you, you were so horrified. maybe not so horrified, but you were sort of just like, that's not it. It wasn't representative of you, right?
Well, usually I'm like, hey, like, how can I help? Can I help? And I think, yeah. So yeah, go ahead. What did I do?
So with the cold callers series that I do, I had been following people on social media. I was looking for people who were active, not only just to connect, but also to just like, ideate and learn. So I found your podcast and I found all your socials, and I think I may actually have found you through the CREi Summit content or website. But I was like, this is a person who, at least from the outside, from an initial just like glance at everything that you were doing, I was like, she is somebody that I absolutely need to talk to. Because the whole premise of that iteration of the cold calling series was that I'm new, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm calling people to ask for their advice.
Yep.
And so I cold called you. And also that at that time, I didn't want to be on camera. Right. I was horribly afraid of talking on the phone. I don't have that problem now.
Isn't that funny how you get used to it?
Yeah, I'm just totally used to it now. And so, I'm like, I'm on camera, like, filming myself calling these people. And so, I call you.
No, you don't have the clip, do you?
I think it's probably in a folder somewhere. But you didn't pick up. So I called you, you didn't pick up. I think I either I left you voicemail. I may have sent you a text. But you emailed me back and you were like, kind of like, what is this? This is interesting. Maybe there's a time we can set something up. And then I responded. And I think at that point also, I had only done 1 or 2 calls. Yeah. And like when I go back and I look at the very first ones, like the quality of the video and the editing is not the quality that it is now. And even like in my own presentation and how I'm speaking and my confidence and all of that, my relax, whether or not I'm relaxed, that is totally different now. Anyway, so it never happened. I emailed you back and then I never heard back from you. And at that point too, I was very much like, I had not heard, Don't Say No for the Prospect, which is of course, from Beth Azor's great book of that, that's the name of the book. I wasn't pursuing, right? I didn't want to bother you.
So yeah, I mean, the weird thing about me is like, I'm like the broker, but I'm also like the owner of my company, and I'm just like bombarded, and I do my best to filter as best as I can. But generally anyone trying to get into the field, like, or if I got emailed by like a resume yesterday for someone to apply to my company, and I'm like, they're more property management. I don't do any property management, but this person does. And like later on, it hit me at night. I'm like, okay, I'm going to send their resume to such and such. And like, I'm happy to like try to like open some doors and send some people, especially if they called me and all that. But Yeah, I think you yeah. But it's kind of funny. But like Destiny just had bigger plans and they're like, well, you guys are going to go to CREi and then Mo Regalado is going to play matchmaker and bring you guys together anyways.
Yes, she did. We were you and I were standing outside of like the session, ballroom at the coffee bar, like kind of like on either side, like either corner of the bar. And Mo walks up to us and she's like, you together.
It's pretty cool.
The other thing too was there was at one of the nights at the conference, you and I and DeLee Becker and Will Curtis all ended up hanging out. And this is when we were talking about this. And I remember you went in your phone and looked in your calendar. And I looked at when I sent you that email and it was like, you've had so much stuff going on this year. And it was like, that was like within a 2-week period that there was like either like the workflow was heavy or there was something going on with the kids.
Well, just 2023 was my rebuilding year for my brokerage. 2024, the beginning of the year, like I got down all the way to myself by the summer because like I was just like, I need something like fresh. And so like I brought on new people starting this summer. So it's been a complete, I don't have anybody like on the team other than one of my marketing people. She's been with me 3 years and she likes to laugh about the like journey of the last 2 years. And but no, it was like, and my volume hasn't gone down, and then trying to keep up with that, trying to keep up with the kids and all the different things. And so all I can do is do the best I can, and then you can't do everything. So then at the end of the day, and the thing is even if you end up saying no to someone now, even if it's inadvertently, whether it's like a board or a phone call or something, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen anyway. So I guess that's the moral of the story here.
100%. 100%.
Give yourself grace. And you gave me grace. And you want to be around those kinds of people, not the person who's like, oh, I don't ever want to talk to them again because like they said no to me. Like, I can't tell you how many clients said no to me. And then I had to eventually work my way to, them finding out that I'm amazing. So.
Well, yeah. And you are amazing. The other thing that really helped me, and it's kind of two sides of that, right? It's like everything that you just said, I resonate with. I work full time. I take care of my home. I take care of my daughter. I have all this other stuff in my life besides just my work, even though probably 85% of the time, if I'm being honest, my work is the most important thing. I'm pretty selfish about my work. But just last month, there was somebody who had reached out to me to like give an interview or something. And I just totally dropped the ball. I just didn't log it. And then they reached back out like 2 weeks later. And I was like, oh yeah. Okay, great. Let's do it.
Yep.
It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
The one thing that helped me to like not take it personally was that and maybe it's particular to this business as opposed to like other industries, but it's like, reaching out and reaching out and reaching out is just like, it's just a part of the game.
Oh yeah.
I called Bob Knackle like 22 times or something before I got him on the phone.
Yeah.
Or maybe there were multiple touch points. And of course that was,
but I mean, with Bob, if you want to talk to him about marketing, you got to call Mo. And if you want to talk to him about something like else, like getting on his calendar, you have to know Denise, who is amazing. Oh, and I just realized too, if people aren't deep in commercial real estate, they may not know who all these things are. Commercial real estate is Commercial Real Estate Influencer Summit and ICSC. What does that stand for, Fly?
International Council of Shopping Centers.
Okay. And then Bob is probably the number one investment sales broker in New York. He sells buildings and has been doing so since 1984. But super, super gracious guy. So grateful I got to go to his first map room, which was awesome. And then, he's been great. So, well, I kind of feel like everybody says like you just kind of popped out of the internet and disrupting things. How have you gotten mostly positive responses, or have you faced some adversity, through this whole process?
The first thing that comes to mind is the reaction from some of the people from my earlier versions of my life, not the people who are close to me, you know, my family, my very best friends, things like that, but like old close colleagues. Because essentially what happened is I, on social media, in many of my profiles, like completely scorched my old career, like, and my old personas off of those to be like, I am entirely 100% dedicated to doing this and going really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And people were kind of confused. And like some people were like, are you okay? So, you know, but everybody who, you know, what did you just say? One third. Like the people who really matter in my life, that are the people that I listen to and like seek out their opinion, were nothing but supportive and extremely supportive once I started getting traction, especially on LinkedIn.
And when you change, like for me, one thing that really like cemented this change I've gone through, and like, you know, I went to Commercial Real Estate Summit in 2021. I started the podcast in 2022, and I really started to change, and I felt like I could just be myself. And one of the first things I did was like, I went back to my natural hair color. I haven't dyed my hair in like 2 years, and like I'm happy, and like and I stopped, like, I feel like up until probably 2018, I was always like the very super like happy Amy. But then when I got ready for having kids, and like I felt like I think I wanted to be the broker or the leader, which I thought the world wanted to be, you know, with blonde hair and super put together and and different outfit at every single function and everything so perfectly curated. And I went through this whole perfectly curated period. And when I was like, I just want to be myself. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to like phone it in life, especially on things that really like matter. But for me, it was like actually like that was like it was almost like a mental shift. When I saw myself in my mirror, I saw myself. I didn't see somebody like I wanted to be. And I hadn't actually talked about that before, but it was a big deal for me. And I felt like myself, like even more so again.
I really connect with that. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I was thinking the other day that I've never felt, are there things I would like to improve and elevate and evolve? 100%. But I've never been more confident, and I've never felt more powerful than I have with the work that I've done really in the last about year and a half.
Yeah. That's super. Yeah. I mean, it kind of feeds upon itself to do that. But yeah, social media has been very powerful. Like you've gotten to do actually some Twitter spaces too. With me.
Twitter spaces are so fun. And the live videos, X spaces, and any other kind of like either like in real time or like in community. Like I really do love the X spaces that end up being about like 10 people, where you have like maybe like there's 5 or 6 people who are active in the conversation, and then there's like people who are just listening, which I love them.
There's a lot of lurkers.
I love the lurkers, and I love the lurkers.
If you're a lurker, it's cool. I just like always try to, when I'm hosting a space, which thank you to CREi Davison again. Like he is like an OG of social media influencing and big on Twitter. And so, you know, he has been he invited me to host a co-host something, and it was just like 6 months ago, and I'd never co-host. I was actually like afraid. I'm like, I don't know what I was afraid of, because now I'm just like so comfortable like doing it. But I think often the only way to change is to try to do something. And then we go back to you cold calling people on camera. And now it's not so hard. So yeah, just get out and do something. If you want to do something, just do it. And then the more you practice it, the better you're going to become.
The one thing I want to add to that, and it kind of, it's a story that I tell often, and I actually am not sure if I have told that story in this space. is that go out and do it, yes, but then surround yourself with people who are either just like aggressively pursuing themselves or also pursuing the same things, like have the same values, have the same interests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in September of 2023, I had a nervous breakdown. I was working in a bakery. I used to be a pastry chef. And when we moved to Baton Rouge for my husband's job, I had nothing here. I had no friends, no family, no community, no whatever. So I was like, I can make cake. I'll make cake. And so I was there. And I stayed there for, I guess that was
How
about
old was your child at the time?
She was 3. She turned, so she would have been like 3.5.
Yeah.
And so, and this is after, so I had my daughter in March of 2020, like the week of the pandemic hitting and the lockdowns, after I had just gotten married, just graduated with my master's degree, moved to the middle of the country with, again, no community, no family, no jobs, because of the industry that I was in and also the fact that I was pregnant. And then I couldn't get a job. I was stringing together freelance work, gig work, things like that. And I was teaching at a major university, and then I had to quit my job to go work in the donut factory. So my career trajectory just like came to a screeching halt after I became a mom, and then like with the pandemic. And also just because of a lot of other things related to my mental health and my mindset and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So there was 3 years of that, of kind of being, and postpartum depression, and it was like a whole lot of stuff, right? So 3 years of just being totally off the rails, totally off track with what my goals had always been, totally completely losing myself. And so we moved to Baton Rouge. It was just the same version, like another chapter of the same story, until there was one day that I literally broke.
Mm-hmm.
And the events that led up to me having that breakdown, I can attribute to 5 conversations. And the lowest common denominator between these conversations that I had in the weeks and days leading up to my breakdown were with women who I was close colleagues with, who all were kind of different ages, different situations, like different variables, but they were all extremely unhappy and had come to a point in their life that they had never meant to get to. And they all said to me, I swear almost verbatim, every single one of them, I wish things were different, but there's nothing that I can do. And so one of my strengths as a storyteller, as an analyst, is all this kind of stuff. The way that my brain thinks is very, very specific about pattern recognition.
Yeah. And you notice, oh my God, this is being told again. This is being told to me again. I feel you. Keep tracking.
I was just like, this is not the version of my story. Like this is not how this ends. Because after I left that situation, it was meant to be a temporary situation that ended up just like continuing on endlessly. My husband, when I was coming out of it, he was like, well, I never thought you were going to be at the bakery forever. And I was like, that is really interesting, because I did. And so I had completely given up on myself, but I also didn't have the mindset of like, I am the thing and the person who's going to do something about it, because every single one of those women are exactly where they were when I left that situation, I guess, a year and a half ago.
Well, it is very easy to get stuck. Especially if you're going through postpartum depression, it's very easy to get stuck. You just feel like you're stuck. And like, I felt like I was stuck, and I had to keep up this. I felt like I had to kind of keep up this image of like the amazing women who lead and growing the brokerage, and I felt like I had to keep perpetuating that. And like whatever it is that you're continuing, it's like it's hard in I feel that fragile postpartum state where you're all of a sudden you've only been caring for yourself your whole life and your own like functions, but all of a sudden you're responsible for like a human. So the last thing you want to do is make some choice that's going to disrupt that. It's a really hard place to be in.
And it was tough. And it was also really tough for me to acknowledge and accept that I was perpetuating some of the things that were making that really hard for me. You know, like, and that's what's really hard for me when I look at people in my life who I don't have relationships with anymore because I completely like took the reins on my life, right? Because I know, having been through many of those things, like those obstacles and those circumstances, those problems are really, really real. But when I realized, with the support of, you know, my husband and my best girlfriends and my, you know, my mom and my dad, what I realized is, like, if there is nothing that you can change about all the external circumstances, literally the only thing that you can change is you. And so that was really what, you know, if I go back to your first question of just like, you know, how on earth did you get here? Like, what happened was I started taking responsibility for myself and not letting myself be a victim of my circumstances.
I think what's hard too is I had too much fear of what people would think about me at the time. And I had trouble letting go of people in my organization and holding people accountable. And now I have no qualms about it, because at the end of the day, I was damaging my own life, my family's life, and I was holding back our organization, me not taking the steps like I needed to take. But it's interesting, on the heels of something so hard, was the mental breakdown over a matter of hours, days, or when did it like hit you?
So the acute, like, the camel broke the straw's back. The moment where the
hammer broke the camel's back. Yeah.
When the hammer dropped, when I literally was like either going to drive my car into the swamp or call my mother, which we know which one I chose. That was at 7 a.m. in the parking lot outside of the day job that I had at the time. And like, I had just dropped off my daughter, and like, it wasn't a good morning, you know, and I, you know, didn't have enough sleep. And so there was a lot of like physical factors there, but it felt in my body as if I literally could not walk back into that building. And it wasn't surprising to me that it happened, but it because I had those thoughts about generally being dissatisfied and unhappy and depressed and unfulfilled, and like, that had been going on for years, but then also kind of like my entire life. So, you know, I've always managed depression and anxiety, some years better than others. And it's so funny, like, I was talking to my husband around the New Year, and I was like, I don't feel that way at all. And after having felt that way for basically 33 years. So it was an acute moment of like, I literally had a physical breakdown, and, you know, I was about an hour in the parking lot, and then I managed to get myself home, and then I walked around the lake, which is about a 4-mile walk. And then I walked around the lake every day for about 6 months. And I'm about to start walking it again because I have a little bit more freedom in my schedule now. But it really, I mean, it had been years. And, you know, I had just gotten really, really good at dissociating and self-medicating and just like shoving it down. Because I also thought it was the only thing that was possible for me.
Is it weird when I don't have as much depression as I have like anxiety and like OCD and all those kinds of things. But when you get to a point when you have less of it I notice I get like anxious about not being anxious now, and now I'm getting used to it. It's interesting, and I think so I don't know. It's an interesting place to be in. So I think we've talked about that in after hours calls, but I think self work and mental health is so important. But if you actually, work on yourself, make healthy changes, have healthy habits, surround yourself. I think, you talked about moving to Baton Rouge and you did not have a community. It doesn't matter where you go in the country, you being part of commercial real estate, you're always going to have friends.
And that one of the biggest concerns in making my move into the position that I have now, which is a fully remote position with, like lots of travel and things like that. When I was doing my pro cons, because I didn't want to, this is the other thing that really helped me in my life sidebar, is I started looking at my emotions as data and not fact, because feelings are not facts, but feelings are a flag to get you to look closer at a piece of data that you're not analyzing and taking into account. So when I made this decision, I did not make it lightly to go from my brokerage or from the brokerage I was working for to the position I have now. I did my best to just look at the data and not take my feelings into account on a superficial level.
Right.
So for me, the biggest red flag in looking at this position was the fact that I would be like sitting here in this room, not in a community of people. And I was like, I have so many solutions for that now. The fact that I have a really close-knit group of people that I can literally access to like 24 hours of the day. And also the fact that I'm more confident now about starting conversations with people that I don't know. I've gotten really good at, leading conversations by asking questions to get people to talk about themselves. And so my ability to be confident and not because I also led myself around with shame. Like I was really ashamed of who I was as a person. And now I don't feel that way. And so I'm sort of wandering around now, but the changing my mindset and starting to take responsibility for myself and doing a lot of the really hard work has led me to have the confidence to have the conversations that have gotten me really strong connections, not only obviously in my professional life in commercial real estate, but with people like you that I call also, besides my colleague, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all of it together, but then also having people around you that like are supportive of you in your journey and don't judge you for that. I noticed you had a couple tattoos. One said Fury. What does the other one say?
Yeah. So which way is this going to be? This way?
Just tell me what
it's mirrored. It says Sound and Fury.
Sound and Fury. What does that mean?
So it comes from a quote from Macbeth, which is in like one of the speeches. But it's going to be a paraphrase. Oh, I'm going to get an F in my history exam.
I took so much Shakespeare. I'm an English major with a writing minor, and I can't tell you any of the Shakespeare. So no judgment here.
Life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Is the end of one of Macbeth's soliloquies in Macbeth. But so
soliloquy, I haven't heard that word in forever.
Yeah, I used to get drunk at college parties and recite Hamlet.
You're fun to be around.
That, I was 22. I don't know what the other 22-year-olds were doing, but they're still.
Well, I told you that I took a number of forensic classes, and I'd get drunk, and then if my friends broke something, I would, or they were trying to accuse us of something, I used forensics, and the pops were like, "Yeah, you're right. You're trying to pin this on the kids," and so.
But so I have quite a few tattoos, really quite a few. Talking. My tattoos are very representative of my values and things I also need reminding of. And then also, and like sentimental tokens of like things that have moved me deeply, that I have described it in the past as like not something that I'm like impressing upon myself, but rather excavating out of it, like something that was always there. And so the one that I've gotten recently, I think this is the most recent one, actually. This is mirrored, I guess, but it says optimism. Yeah. And I have it there specifically because I've started practicing optimism, not necessarily as like a full, like a lens, but as a discipline of deciding that things are going to be good and then bending reality around yourself to make it so. But the thing I really like about it is that often the times that I am the least optimistic are for some reason when I'm driving. And my dominant hand when I'm driving is my left hand, even though I'm right-handed. And so when I'm at the wheel, I just get this reminder like right in my face. Just like you, this is something that you have to practice. This is something that you have to like commit yourself to every single day. And so I leave little notes around, like I have notes on my mirror and notes, I have
it works.
I have, I put Rod Santamassimo's Knowing Isn't Doing up there to remind myself of that. But
you know who you need to meet in Louisiana?
No, who?
Did you see my episode with Izzy Warner from Red Dot Jewelry? She makes jewelry in Louisiana, and they always have like a word in them. So like mine's Thrive. And I just think it's so cool. I mean, if she's not too far from you, I forgot what town in Louisiana she's in. You should meet her. So like it would be kind of cool. I think you'd find it really awesome. So, well, can you believe we've been talking for over 40 minutes?
I can, because we like to talk.
Yeah. So, no, I think if anything, I think we talked a lot about in this podcast, not being afraid to, do something different. You really are a disruptor, in commercial real estate, and be true to yourself. You're a person that celebrates people and likes to create, conversations and connections and all those kinds of things. I really appreciate you sharing also your journey that kind of brought you here. And obviously that requires a lot of resilience. So how do people, now that you move, is there anything else you want to chat about? Or we could always do a part 2.
For sure. But there's probably some parts that you want to cut out.
No, I have a post-production person that does all the things.
We love the post-production people. Yes, upcoming this year, definitely check out the CREi Summit. Amy and I are doing some really exciting work on the programming committee, deciding who's going to be there, what we're going to do. And it's shaping up to be a really excellent event.
It's going to be very tactical too. It's like, it's literally, we're going to go over things and you're going to get to practice it. Cause like, it's one thing to listen. You go back and then you just file this away in your drawer and then you don't end up doing like half of what it is, but we will make it super easy to actually do the things.
Yeah. Implement.
Implement.
That's in September. If we reel it back to May, I will be at ICSC in Las Vegas. And if we reel it back a little bit, I think the only thing on the calendar I have before then is Beth Azor's Women's Investing Summit.
Oh, are you kidding me? I didn't think I was going to see you until September. So I'm going to be there.
I know. I'm going to see you really soon.
Okay, sweet. And then you like people to follow you on social media? You prefer LinkedIn? Probably is the easiest, or any of them?
LinkedIn, X, and Instagram. That's my sweet 3. So Fly Jamerson on LinkedIn. It's Fly on X and Instagram. And then you can also find me doing work repping 1031 specialists.
Sweet. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. I think that will be right after I launch my book. So maybe I should bring some books with me.
Yes, you should 100% bring some books with you, and we should find a time to talk about that.
Yeah. And then, so you know how to contact Fly. It's been a great conversation. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in for the latest episode of the Performance Mindset Podcast. Be sure to continue to go beyond strengthening that mindset. This is Amy Calandrino, signing off.